Hello, you're watching Spotlight Growth Live, a program that showcases emerging global growth investments and their innovative leadership. I'm your host, Leyla Gulen, and today I'm joined by Jim Phipps, CEO of Zuki, a new-to-market Metaverse Web3 specializing in gaming, game making, NFTs, and a whole lot more. It's great to have you here, Jim.
Great, it's good to be on.
So tell us a little bit about the founding of Zuki.
So Zuki, the company that we've put this game platform into, it has actually been around for a while. It was previously the Louisiana Food Company, and they didn't make it, but we bought the company and put our game system into it. We kind of really got going in earnest this last summer, in June. The game system that we've brought into this company has been road tested with the likes of Real Madrid, where we went in with them and did dropped our game into their native app, and then also engaged on their social media with their 400 million plus followers, and relatively immediately reached every country on earth, including all the ones that aren't members of the UN, and so tiny island nations and the biggest populations on earth. And we basically, the game system is designed to do live engagement. So what we did with them was we did engagements with their fans during matches, and it was very exciting. And we provided prizeification, some sponsor provided prizes, some cash, and we saw an immediate liking for what we were doing. And then basically that test went very, very well in our estimation. And so what we're doing now is we're taking our games into the crypto space, where we're going to do prizing with a cryptocurrency called the Zuki. And we'll do also an NFT platform. There are a lot of NFT games that you might have heard of, and most of those games are related to role play fantasies. So you're kind of the types of NFTs that get minted in those environments tend to be NFTs that are about the game itself, or that have utility within the game. So you might use an NFT as your avatar, or you might use it as a character, or a tool, or something like that you're using in the game. That's not what we're doing. In our NFT platform, basically, we have an unlimited range of subjects we can cover in our games.
That's really interesting.
And
can you give us a couple of examples of the types of games?
So I've mentioned a live engagement, like a sporting event, a football match or a soccer match, or an American football game, or baseball. Any of those are possible, but we could also do live events at concerts, or premieres of TV shows, or premieres of movies. We can also do passive gaming, so that we can do, let's say that I have a big following that cares about what I think about Ethereum, or cares what I think about Cardano. These are blockchains. I could take my subject matter expertise and engage my audience, prizeify them with NFTs, with our native cryptocurrency, with sponsor-provided prizes, and engage my audience, so that people, we could go in and start our platform by making an agreement with the likes of a Real Madrid again. That's not our plan. What we think is the way to launch this is to go for all of those small and medium influencers who have audiences whom they engage daily, and give them a tool that allows them to engage them in a way that makes it interesting for the players, where there's something that they can win.
What's interesting to me, it sounds a bit like, from the knowledge that I have of a metaverse, that there is somewhat of a melding between the metaverse and things terrestrial. Because when you talk about a premiere of a TV show or things like that, I mean, that is what is happening here within, what is more or less tangible, as opposed to something that is in the metaverse that seems rather ethereal in a way.
Right. So we'll ultimately introduce augmented reality components and which are now highly associated with metaverse plays. Our first sort of move in the direction of Web3 is to turn over the game making to the actual users of the platform, so that they can make their own games, engage their own audiences, select their own prizes. So a company with a big brand, well, they could engage their followings, but so could somebody who's just holding a party for their 12 friends. And so basically, what we want to do, yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. There's a little bit of a delay here, but so real quick though, Metaverse, Web3, these terms are often mistakenly interchanged. So what is the difference between the two? Just briefly.
Well, I think the definitions are in a state of flux, but I think most people think of metaverse as involving either an augmented reality component where you're actually outside of the real world and into some created world, or an augmented reality type of experience where you're in the real world and what's in the real world influences what's inside the metaverse, but you can actually overlay another experience on the real world. And then on the Web3 side, it's all about turning over the controls to the to the users. So in a sense, the social media world is a step in that direction, but all of that is really controlled by top corporations that get all the advertising dollars for themselves and it's focused on the creation of a company that is receiving all the benefits of the essentially of the world that's been created in the ethersphere, right? So whether that's so what we're going to do is we're turning over the game making to our users, and they'll actually be in the money. So if there are advertisers that are in the play, they'll be able to pick up the advertising dollar. If they're, another sort of example of something that's a step in the direction of Web3 was Google's giving Google ad monies to the YouTubers, right, when they met certain criteria. But they control that, and they're really the they're at the core of that. We will actually have a system that is more robust in the way that it rewards the users of the platform, the game creators. And then I think the other thing that we are really keen to do is make sure that content creators, and the way the world has reorganized itself over these last decades, all of us can be content creators. And that's everything, people who do podcasts. Well, it turns out that economically, a following of just 10 or 15,000 people can be very valuable, right? But right now, it's not proving to be so valuable for people who are influencing at that level, right? So we actually believe that relatively people in relatively ordinary circumstances are going to be able to use this platform to engage their audiences. We want to see, for example, the high school boosters clubs be able to use this platform, not only to have fun, but also to, raise their money. We want to see the top level sports organizations on earth using this platform to engage their, multi-million dollar or multi-million person followings. And then, the elite celebrities who have those, 50 million plus groups of followers, that will be an interesting group too, but we don't think we should start there. We might have one or two do this with us. It's expensive to do. And the other thing is, I think the better way to go about it is to collect in those celebrities the same way that Twitter did, by having a platform where people can engage, right? So it's not our aim to start with the biggest properties out there. It's our aim to give everyone an opportunity to build their own engagements. And, so I could be an expert in literally anything. Just 2 weeks ago, we acquired a company that's focused on the genealogy space. Well, it turns out that genealogists, professional genealogists and enthusiasts are very focused, and they get connected to each other and they talk to each other. Some of them have some sizable followings. And so basically we give them the ability to engage in this way. And they can actually make their professions as genealogists, where they're professionals, or their hobby, where they're hobbyists, into something where they're actually sharing useful knowledge through the means of our engagement
And
system.
specifically what you're talking about is billion graves?
Billion graves, that's right. And then we also acquired a little company called GTR 24H, which is a sim, sort of an esports endurance racing platform. And they have an audience, and we want them to be able to use our tool to engage their audience. But we also want this to be spread in that world of esports, which is much bigger than just endurance racing. It covers all kinds of stuff now. So this is just a first step in the direction of the esports. So that's what that's about.
And to kind of round out,
we've done a couple of other acquisitions that also do this.
Right. And to kind of round out kind of the latest three, so you mentioned Billion Graves, the GTR 24H, and then Moneyball. What is Moneyball?
Moneyball is an AI-powered advertising platform, and you're probably aware that OTT, over-the-top advertising platforms, enable somebody who's putting content out to essentially drop in advertising, and also to drop in advertising, and also to manage the advertising, bringing in the right advertisers, to the right types of content. And what that is really about at the start, where Moneyball is headed, is in the direction of engaging the big European football soccer clubs. And what happens in European football is that the teams, of course, not all the teams' matches can be on TV every week. So all of the teams have fairly recently developed channels of their own, and it has to do with changes in the way the media rights contracts have been negotiated. But they now have the space to create their own channels to cover the material that didn't get televised, and that provides, so now all the stadia are equipped with cameras. Well, now they'll be able to, with Moneyball, to actually to create advertising platform to engage their fans, and it has a couple of positive effects for the clubs. It provides new spaces on which to advertise, to engage their own advertisers, and to bring in new advertisers. It also provides for the advertisers, if you collect up a bunch of these clubs, well, you're basically, unless you're, if you're a national brand only, then only the clubs in your country that where your company is, that's going to be what's of interest to you. But if you're serving the whole European market, all of these clubs with all of their channels that don't otherwise have significant advertising on them, except for, say, maybe Google ads or something like that, they're now able to put their ads on top of their content, and to know who their advertisers are, and so they can have, it's a new subject matter for new rate cards, right? And then what we see in Moneyball is doing what we have experience doing from our experience with Real Madrid, and that is going into big clubs, and they're focused on top tier European clubs. They have picked up one Brazilian club that's one of the greats, but more on that later.
Right,
but
right. So is this essentially how you plan to monetize the Zuki verse, as it was? Basically, I think what you just gave us is encapsulated within the Zuki verse, as opposed to the Metaverse and Web3.
Yeah, this is Zuki sphere, but it will become Web3 too, because what we are going to do with Moneyball, while they're focused on the big advertisers and we're focused on small and medium influencers, they can also take what we do in Zuki into the big clubs, and we can take Moneyball to our smaller influencers.
I see.
Right, so we have this very natural tie-up.
Mm-hmm. And who would you say is your target audience, and which country would you say provides the largest audience?
Well, I think for getting started, there are a couple things to understand. The pay to play gaming has gotten really big in Southeast Asia. So that's one audience that we'll certainly be addressing, and we hope to have some news in that space fairly soon. But another one is Europe and the U.S., and the U.S. being the most developed of them all for the broad gaming space technology. But our own regulators have not been kind to American companies involved in crypto plays. So right now we're kind of working out. You remember this week, President Biden issued an order to a kind of whole of government instruction to somehow get a handle on how the government should be involved in protecting investors, et cetera, in this space. So as that happens, there's been a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen. So it's kind of given people a little bit of paralysis. I think we'll come out fine, and I think the regulation could be really great. I'm hoping our regulators follow the lead of what's happening in Europe in this space. But I think the U.S. market is a great market and the North American market more broadly, great markets for what we're doing. And then I would just say, when you're thinking about markets, because we are not subject matter restricted, the only thing we're not doing is porn, right? And we're not going to allow our game system to be used for gambling, just because that invokes a bunch of different regulatory systems. But we will. We cover all kinds of subject matter. So as we work to spread what we're doing into the influencer space, we'll see that we're not really restricted on subject matter. So it's going to be difficult at this stage to predict where the best markets are. And it's going to be by subject matter.
I'm really glad that you did bring that up, because what I was going to ask you is big tech has come under a lot of fire, has been criticized largely for its suppression of free speech. And so is there going to be any kind of oversight, any kind of control, for lack of a better term, over what content is being created and put out there?
So this is really complicated space, as it turns out. And it's because we're a small company, and to get wide coverage, you have to deal with large companies. I could give you some simple examples, but I think we are committed to free speech, and we want this platform to be a free speech platform. There is if you want to put an app, for example, in the App Store, in the Apple App Store, or if you want to put it in the Google Play Store, there are certain minimum requirements you have to adhere to, and you have to have ways for people to protect themselves from abuse, for example. And so, we'll have tools like that aboard, but I certainly hope that we always resist the temptation to exercise our judgment about all the various rights and wrongs. For me, the right answer to speech I disagree with is more speech, right? And I'm personally committed to the old-fashioned idea that my speech, if I want to have free speech, I've got to give it to people, even, and I have to support their right to have it, even when they're saying something I find repulsive, right? So I hope that we can reflect that core American value in all that we do, because I think it's important to everyone who might use our platform.
Absolutely. I have two last questions for you, Jim. The first being, where do you see Zuki going in the next, say, 2 years? And where can people find more information to learn more about Zuki?
Last question first. You can go to zuki.app, and that site is changes fairly frequently, and hopefully we'll be able to keep you up to date. We also tweet regularly and our handle is at Zukisphere. So within 2 years' time, we want to have our platform iterated enough times that all the things that we anticipate putting in it now are fully available. We'd like to be in every location in the world, and we think that's possible because of the nature of our tech. There's no reason why we can't spread quickly. And if we're successful in driving this play with cryptocurrencies and with the cryptocurrency and NFTs, my guess is that we will be just fine. I think we have the possibility of being not just a games platform, but because of the nature of the engagements, to turn into a proper social media platform. And that's where I see this going is, people will use this way of engaging each other as its own social media platform without doing anything to undermine any other social media platform. We don't need to. We just need to give people the ability to engage the way they wish.
Indeed. Well, Jim, I want to thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for tuning in to Spotlight Growth Live. We'll see you next time.